Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Do we have Secretary Cruz on board? We do, I see. And Dr. O'Bannon?
He's there.
Very good. In that event, I'll call this meeting of the State Board of Elections to order. My first request would be that non-participants mute their lines. Members of the staff and the Office of Attorney General who are participating in this meeting are Christopher Piper, the Commissioner of Elections, Daniel Persico, Information Officer, and Hayes Locker, the Office of Attorney General. I'd ask Secretary Cruz to determine a quorum by a roll call.
Chairman Brink,
Present.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon,
Here.
Secretary Cruz here.
Very good. There is a quorum of all three members. Governor Northam has declared that a state of emergency exists in the Commonwealth as a result of the potential spread of COVID-19, a communicable disease of public health threat. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the requirements for electronic meetings during a state of emergency set forth in items 4-0.01 of House Bills 29 and 30 as passed by the General Assembly and signed by the governor in April of 2020. The purpose of this meeting is to transact statutorily required business of the board. Consistent with COVID mitigation efforts, this meeting is being conducted electronically, and the opportunity for public comment will be provided electronically. The board will receive public comment on agenda items prior to its action on that item, and an open public comment period will be offered prior to the board meeting in closed session to receive the advice of counsel. Individuals participating via video conference should signify their wish to speak through the conference's chat feature. After they have spoken, individuals participating by audio will have the opportunity to speak. Without objection, individuals wishing to comment will be recognized for 3 minutes, and they may enter written comments into the record. Our only order of business today is consideration of alleged irregularities in the operations of 2 local electoral boards. I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to receive the advice of counsel. In that event, I will make the motion. I move that the board go into closed session for the purpose of discussing alleged improprieties by local electoral boards, specifically the Richmond City Electoral Board and the Nottaway County Electoral Board, as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia. Christopher Piper, Commissioner of Elections, Daniel Persico, Chief Information Officer of the Department, Ashley Coles, Chief FOIA Officer and Policy Analyst for the Department, and Carol Lewis and Heather Hayes Lockerman of the Office of Attorney General will attend the closed session because their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the subject of the meeting. Do I hear a second for that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the secretary call the roll?
Chairman Brink,
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon,
Aye.
Secretary Cruz, aye.
The motion passes 3-0. And Mr. Persico, will you do the
Mr.
mechanics
Chairman?
to put us into closed session?
Bob,
Yes,
last time we did this, we had some technical challenges in losing those folks who were outside of the closed session when we came out. I'm curious if Daniel has figured out a way to, okay, just so I hope everybody will benefit from knowing that as he leads us here.
Yes, Dr. Bannon, I was just going to let everyone know what the procedure is. We are going to use a different feature in WebEx called a breakout session. I'm going to basically everybody that's on this call that it was not on the list of folks to go into closed session will remain in this area, and all the other members will be put into the breakout session. Everyone that was not on the list can hang out here until the board reconvenes to open session.
does that assuage your concerns, Dr. O'Bannon? Very good. All right, Mr. Persico, will you proceed, please?
Yes, sir. Stand by 1 minute.
Can you let me know if you can hear me? This is Elizabeth Butler.
I can hear you.
Great,
I
thank
can hear
you.
I can
Thank
hear you.
you. Appreciate that. Testing out a new system.
All right, Chairman Brink, we're good to go.
Okay, are we fully restored to the full meeting?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. O'Bannon,
I have a motion.
please state it.
I move to reconvene an open session and take a roll call vote, certifying that to the best of each member's knowledge, only such public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was concerned were heard, discussed, or considered.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we reconvene in open session. Will Secretary Cruz call the roll, please?
Chairman Brink,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon,
Aye.
Secretary Cruz, aye.
The motion passes 3-0. All right. Do we have a motion on any of the matters before us?
I thought we were going to do agenda items one at a time and take public comment and
My intention would be that we consider any motions separately and that we have public comment on each of them prior to the board taking a vote on any motion that may be brought before us.
Chairman Brink, I have a motion.
Secretary Cruz, please state your motion.
As it relates to the Nottaway County Electoral Board, I'd move that after a thorough review of the documents we received, the Nottaway County Electoral Board needs to have additional consultation with the Department of Elections as it relates specifically to the Freedom of Information Act and to the limitation on political activities permissible by electoral board members. I would also move that all electoral board members complete the electoral board training in addition to the FOIA training and provide proof of completion of both trainings within 90 days of today's meeting.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the secretary call the roll, please?
Chairman Brink,
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon.
Aye.
Oh, wait. We need to do public comment first.
Okay.
All right. Can staff tell us if there are individuals who wish to comment publicly on this item?
Yes, Chairman Brink. The first person that I have for Nottaway is Ms. Dana Mitchell.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm asking you to immediately intervene in the current issues surrounding the Nottaway County Board of Elections. We continue to experience an obvious disconnect between the board members and the registrar that is being perpetrated in order to feed the ego of the chair on the board. Our county is suffering. Neither the chair or the vice chair have the experience necessary to be in charge of any decision. Now, I know that you guys have insisted that they do additional training, but this is not the first time. They've been told this by Viva and again, did not show up to the boot camp. The chair showed up, the secretary showed up, but the vice chair did not. And then the chair left before it was completed. They continue to violate policies. This is not a fiefdom. The chair is not a dictator. I'm tired of watching it implode. A new member on the board was allowed to vote on policy with no prior knowledge or information and then was coached by the chair during the meeting. The Democratic chair, Thomas Cruz, continues to be in the middle of the meeting and make comment, suggestions. There's texting going on. The chair of the board is not even paying attention half the time to the board and makes comments like, we need to eliminate a way for the public to comment or ask questions of the electoral board. So she wanted to eliminate an email that was set up in order to open up the opportunity for dialogue, transparency. And that was her justification. Well, we don't know who's responding, so we need to be transparent. Let's eliminate that email. Just crazy stuff. This training is not going to do any good because they don't want it. They think they don't need it. Why would the board seek to eliminate a means of communication between the public and the board? That makes no sense. There is an obvious bias right now. There's issues. There are personal issues between the registrar and the electoral board, and it's being brought in to the business. We allowed the past chair to swap positions in the middle of a meeting that wasn't on the agenda. I don't even know if the chair is actually the chair. I think Carolyn Davis is still the chair. It was never on the agenda. And then she resigned. So now we have somebody who's resigned who never actually followed the agenda. They didn't, I mean, the craziness of this situation, and you're helping by forcing them to do training that they've refused over and over and over again, instead of removing them and sanctioning them and getting somebody in there that needs to be in there, that's actually fair and not biased. And it's not about politics. It's about equality and a fair election. I mean, those are the things that we're supposed to stand for.
Chairman Brink, we are at
Okay.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Who's the next speaker?
The next person is Miss Sarah Allen.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sarah Allen. I am the chairman of the Nottaway County Electoral Board. I would just like to speak on a few items. Number one, when we went to do a lot of things with the meeting, we always consulted Viva, specifically Barbara Tabb. I didn't really know what was being discussed today, so I don't know what to speak on. So I would just speak on what Ms. Diane Mitchell said. First, Diane Mitchell, she comes to the meeting, she's very disruptive. She is friends with Angela Stewart, and she's currently using this as a position to run for mayor of one of the counties. She said that we never attended training, we're refusing training. We all attended training. The training that happened recently on April 10th, we had a new member join who had already had a previous engagement. That's why she couldn't attend. She was only selected for the board maybe a week prior, with prior notice. We have attended all trainings. The training was scheduled from 9 to 2 p.m. That's via email with Barbara Tabs and John Nunley. The meeting ran over to 2:30, possibly 3 o'clock. I had to leave because I had to go to work. I stayed until a little bit after 2, which it was scheduled to end. I feel that we're being targeted because we're Democrats in a Republican county. We are trying to go to training. We have already scheduled for your training with our. We had to contact an attorney to deal with a lot of the chaos that is being caused by Ms. Mitchell and Ms. Stewart. We did not vote to get rid of an email to end transparency. We voted to get rid of an email because we didn't know who was responding via the email, not just specifically one person. We wanted to have a specific FOIA officer. We were told not to do that per Barbara Tabs. Everything, we tried to get advice on it because we are a very new board. So I'm open to any investigation or anything. Just, that's all I have to say. I appreciate the time talking, for you allowing me to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Who is our next speaker?
All right, next up we have Erwin Sonny Abbott.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you, sir. I'll be very brief. It is I sat on the board, the electoral board, as the secretary for 8 months and resigned. I submitted 2 letters to Chief Judge Sella and was basically told that apparently I just didn't get along. So since I didn't get along, let me tell you why I didn't get along. I've been on this earth for quite a while and I've been called a lot of things. What I choose never to be called and will refute is a liar, and was called that by a fellow member of the board. I proved with documentation everything that I said was true. So just take that into consideration as you realize that there are 3 members on the board. A partisan board that is supposed to function in a nonpartisan way. Functioning nonpartisan is absolutely impossible with this current board or the board that I served with, some of which are still there. The registrar is the registrar, has been for a significant number of years. And the only way you understand what the registrar is responsible for is to work with the registrar, come into the office and see what goes on. I submit to you that that doesn't happen. But I'll allow you to ask those questions of those who are currently on the board to see what answer you get. It's unfortunate. Nottaway might be an area that the majority of folks are Republican, but there are a lot of Democrats here too, but it shouldn't matter. Trying to conduct a fair, free, and honest election shouldn't matter to party, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, or any other fashion. And that doesn't happen all the time. There's going to be a Democratic primary here in a few weeks. If the registrar did just what the registrar is responsible to do, you would not have an election in Nottaway County. Democrats wouldn't have a place to go vote. One needs to hope that the registrar continues to do what the registrar has done historically, or Democrats will not be able to pick someone in June. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Who is our next speaker?
Next speaker, we have Carolyn A. Davis.
Ms. Davis?
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
Kim.
Okay, thank you. I have served on, was the past chair, vice chair, and also secretary of the Nottaway County Electoral Board. My service on that board was over a period of almost 10 years. And in my opinion, over time, the board has worked well together. That we have had some issues that I think arise from the registrar not communicating well with everyone on the board. I'd like to say that the decisions that your board made today seem to be fair. And even though this is a young board, I think that with the guidance that the State Board of Elections provides them, and also the chairman of the Nottaway, the chairman of the Virginia Electoral Board, Ms. Tabb, she's been outstanding in providing information to this board to help them carry on in a positive, nonpartisan way. And I think that can be accomplished. I just think it requires more cooperation between the board and the registrar. Before I resigned this past year, I reached out to the registrar and asked her to meet with me one-on-one. And let's sit down and try to talk about how we could work better together. But she just simply had no time for me. So I just think that what you have recommended today will help. And I think this board will be successful if the community works, the community, the registrar, and they all work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Who's our next speaker?
Next up, we have Sharon Caldwell.
Good afternoon. If you are muted, could you unmute, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you now.
Okay, thanks. Yes, my name is Sharon Caldwell, and I have worked for Angela and worked the polls going on my 19th year. And in all of those years, we have never, just remember, we have never had any trouble with anything. And Carolyn Davis has been on and off for 10 years, but she never had anybody to work with her. She was always, when she come by the polls, everybody was always nice to us. She wasn't. She always acted like she was looking for problems. She was picking. And all the poll workers felt the same way. As far as Diana Mitchell, I've known Angela well for 19 years, and I've never known them to be friends, go out, hang out, or anything. And the I just know that in the going on 19 years I've been there, everything has always been good. Sarah Allen gets on, Thomas Cruz gets involved, and then it's like chaos. And they are not going to, it's obvious they don't want to work with Angela. But none of the past electoral board members ever had any trouble with Angela. It's just these two. But I do know that in all those years, I've missed one election, and that was it. And all the past ones have never had any trouble. And it's just, I mean, you just need to look at it like that we've never had any trouble, and then all of a sudden we got trouble. But in all the meetings I've been in and the talking I've heard around the corners, and I've heard Carolyn Davis, I heard her tell somebody we need to take over the office, and they don't want to work with Angela. She doesn't like Angela, and they don't want it to work. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. Who's up next?
Next up, we have Thomas Cruz, chairman of the Nottaway County Democratic Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman Brink. I'll leave my comments very brief. I I would like to dispute numerous things said by previous individuals. But rather than doing that, I will submit my comments in writing. However, I do support the board's motion to have additional training for the Nottaway County Electoral Board. I think that's a great idea. I am strongly in supportive of that, and I urge you to support that motion. I will submit additional comments as well as documentation to the board at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Do we have additional
We
speakers?
have Angela Stewart. Angela Stewart.
Ms. Stewart, would you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
please? Yeah,
Can y'all
we
hear
you
me?
now.
Okay.
Yes.
My name's Angela Stewart. I'm the Director of Elections here in Nottaway County and have been for 22 years and served 7 years as a Deputy Registrar. We've had perfect elections here in Nottaway County without any problems. I would like to plainly state to you today, I am not friends with Diana Mitchell, had never met Diana Mitchell till she attended an electoral board meeting, and I'm sure she will back that up. Not even in passing, even though we live in Nottaway County, and that is the truth. I was openly attacked by the new board member at the last electoral board meeting and called names by someone I had never met. You people know the new board member as well as I do. It's uncalled for. They have performed no electoral board duties, including LNA testing. They did not participate in risk limiting audits. They did not do any of the cyber security they were required to do. They have not appointed officers for the upcoming election. This job, because of this board, has become almost undoable. If it wasn't for my vast experience and knowledge and great officers, I don't think we'd be having an election in June. I have been requested by this board not to attend their meetings nor sit at their table. If you can help me help Nottaway County and our voters, I wish you'd do so. I've had 4 Democratic officers quit in the last 4 days because of the way I have been treated by this board. I will follow up with written documentation from these officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Do we have any additional speakers?
Chairman Brink, those were all the names I've had for Nottaway County.
All right.
I believe Secretary Cruz might have something to say.
Could I just ask a question? I was a little bit concerned about Ms. Stewart's allegation that the board members did not attend the cybersecurity training. Are any of the board members here that they could refute that, or is that something we might want to add to the requirements in my motion?
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Commissioner?
What she was referring to, I think, Madam Secretary, was so there are requirements that they meet certain cybersecurity minimum security requirements. Those are the board's minimum security requirements in order to access VERIS. So I think what she was referring to, and it's been referred to in some of the documentation that you all have received, was preparing and responding to those minimum qualifications. I have checked with our staff, and Nottaway did comply, and so we're good there. But I think that what Ms. Stewart was referring to was that basically she had to do it instead of the board's handling of it.
Thank you.
All right, are there any additional comments from the board? If not, we have a motion before us. Secretary Cruz, will you call the roll, please?
Chairman Brink,
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon,
I vote aye.
Secretary Cruz, aye.
The motion passes 3-0. Are there any additional motions to come before the board?
On this item or Richmond?
This is for Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a motion.
Vice Chair O'Bannon, please state it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After due consideration of the allegations raised regarding members of the Richmond City Board of Elections, including but not limited to, number one, open sealed returns of certain precincts and improper conduction of a canvass on the morning of November 4, 2020, without a proper meeting of the Electoral Board and without party observers. Two, advocated responsibilities delegated under Articles 3 and 4 of Title 24.2 of the Code of Virginia. And three, violated the Virginia Freedom of Information Act by communicating information regarding board business while not in a publicly noticed meeting. I move the board delegate authority to Chairman Brink to draft a letter requesting that the Commonwealth's attorney for the city of Richmond investigate allegations related to improper actions in violation of Title 24.2 of the Virginia Code and the Virginia Freedom of Information Act by members of the Richmond City Electoral Board. And I also request that the Commonwealth's attorney render a report of its findings back to the State Board of Elections.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. So do we have any speakers who wish to be heard on this motion?
Yes, Chairman Brink. The first person we have is James Knackman, the chairman of the Richmond City Electoral Board.
Mr. Knackman.
I'm trying.
Afternoon. Unmute yourself, please.
I'm trying. I was wondering whether I could speak last after all the other public comments, Chairman Brink.
Without objection, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
Ms. Tyson, who's our next speaker?
The next person would be Vice Chair Joyce Smith of the Richmond City Electoral Board.
Ms. Smith?
Hello? Yes, I'm here. I was trying to unmute it on the laptop, but I couldn't get it unmuted, but I'm here.
Okay.
What I wanted to speak about, everything that we were accused of was untrue. We did not violate any codes whatsoever. We did send the paperwork in with the explanation about what actually happened. I've been called a liar by Starlette Stevens as well as Ames Russell. We had people that were there the night of to explain the.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm having a bad echo.
Excuse me a minute. I couldn't get this in here.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm back. The night of November the 4th, we were given given envelopes, number 2 envelopes to go over the tapes from the election, from the election that did not come in with their numbers at the end of the evening. And those were the only ones that we had to open up. The number 2 envelopes we had to open up with the numbers that we had to count. It was 5 of us there. We had to sign the tape of the envelopes that we opened and researched. We did never have Ames Russell's envelope because he called his numbers in the night of the election. So we wouldn't have had any reason at all to have his number 2 envelope. So, and it's also stated that we had, that it was filmed or whatever. We have no access, it's not active. None of the videos are active in here showing anything that was done. And if it was, it wouldn't matter because we did not have his envelope. He's saying that I'm a liar. He's not specifically saying everybody, all 5 of us that were there were liars, but he's saying that James Nackman and myself were the ones that went into his envelope and did something with his tape. I don't know whatever happened to his tape, but I was told that they found a tape and the correct tape and they canvassed everything and everything worked out fine. So why he's continually, and Starlet Stevens, to call me a liar, I don't understand it. When I have proof of the people that was working in there with me, it was 5 of us working there, and they can verify, and they also sent, got a letter signed to verify what actually happened and who was there. And that was a proof right there. Now, why they are saying this, Starlet Stevens, which is the secretary of the board, and Ames Russell, I don't know. And then she turned around and asked me, well, who did it? How would I know who did it? We never saw his envelope. So I would like to have this cleared up seriously because it's offensive. And I know I'm not a liar. I don't have anything to lie about. So where they're getting their evidence from, they need to bring forth the evidence that they have.
I'm sorry, Chairman Brink.
Yes.
The 3 minutes have been reached.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smith. If you wish, you can submit a written statement for the record also.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Who's our next speaker?
Next up, we have Yolanda Stokes.
Ms. Stokes?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman Brink and members of the State Electoral Board. Wow, I'm sitting here listening to what's going on with the it's kind of like deja vu when I was removed from the Hopewell board. I wrote letters to you all or emailed to you this morning, and I'm wondering, did you get my written correspondence? And if you did, then that was my statements for today. However, I think in reminiscing back, the problems seem to be the same, but the players have changed. I had the opportunity to interview before the Richmond Electoral Board, and I must say it was a very difficult interview because of the atmosphere and the static in the room, or I always call it the elephant in the room. But then the training needs to be geared more toward what these actual problems are. I remember the training for the Hopewell Board, and I still stay as much involved in elections as I can because my heart is there. But before I went into interview with the Richmond board, I had the opportunity to go online and just go through their board minutes, go through a lot of things so I could be familiar with the board. And I will say that one of the board members that I worked with was Miss Joyce Smith, and she's newly appointed on the board. And I think you should take in consideration that she is young on the board. and that she reaches out. She worked with me as much as she could, preparing me. She reached out to me and asked if I would apply for the general registrar's position, but also answered a lot of questions for me regarding it. So I would ask that you all take in consideration Mrs. Smith's youthfulness on the board and give her an opportunity to learn just what is expected of electoral board members and what is expected during the electoral process. That's about all I have to say. I'm going to go back and I'll send you something because I'm observing this meeting today, and there's some concerns. It's good seeing Ms. Stewart again. But there are some concerns that I have further. And if you would allow me to write later, because I don't want to run out of time, and I know you all got a lot of time, but if you give me a chance, because this is really important, and we have to have confidence in the election process here in the state of Virginia, and Richmond is one of the premier cities I looked up to when I was.
Excuse me, Chairman Brink.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stokes.
Next up, we have Hayden Fisher with the Richmond Republican Committee.
Good afternoon. Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. My name is Hayden Fisher, and I'm the chairman of the Richmond City Republican Committee. Thank you for carefully considering the issues raised by our election integrity team. As we review the detailed evidence presented here, we are struck by the persistent pattern and disregard for the Code of Virginia. Each of the 9 incidents involve quote-unquote law breaking in violation of the plain English of the code. The code provides instructions on what to do if a precinct's results haven't been reported on election night. It also provides a process to replace an electoral board member who is temporarily ill. Most importantly, it spells out a process for the electoral board to meet regularly with all of its members and the public to conduct formal business. Unfortunately, certain members of the Richmond Electoral Board have proven that they can't be trusted to follow the Code of Virginia. I urge you on behalf of the citizens of Richmond to recommend the removal of Chairman Nachman and Vice Chairman Joyce Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. We have additional speakers.
Next up, we have Miss Elizabeth Butler with the Richmond Republican Committee.
Ms. Butler.
Hello, this is Elizabeth. I am sitting here with Starlet Stevens, and I just wanted to thank you all for carefully considering all of the information that we sent across on the 13th. I know it was a lot of information, and I'm just curious if each of the 3 of you were able to read the full document that we presented.
Yes.
So thank you. Because I think it's important to read all of the details, because there's a lot of people contributed to that, and we're all sort of pulling in the same direction. I hope that if your motion passes, that the Commonwealth's attorney in Richmond can look at these matters in an unbiased way and make a fair decision on it. I'm not completely confident about that, but I hope that will happen. I think the main thing is just for open, public, sworn testimony to be taken, so that we can just get to the bottom of anything that continues to be contested. And I hope that will happen with the Commonwealth's attorney. So I thank you for your time in considering this.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Do we have any additional speakers?
Nope. Lastly, we have Mr. James Nachman.
Mr. Nachman?
Yes. Did the board receive my response to the Mr. Hayden Fisher's letter and his allegations?
The 7-page?
Yes, sir.
7-page document?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And did you receive a letter from a number of assistant registrars from the city of Richmond dated April the 12th, 2021?
That I'm not aware of. We may very well have, though.
Okay, because a letter was sent by approximately 7 assistant registrars from the city of Richmond, basically corroborating a lot of what I put in my response, in my 7-page response. I think that the only person who may have violated the law, specifically the FOIA law that Dr. O'Bannon mentions, is Starlet Stevens. She, in the document that Hayden Fisher filed with you, basically talks about a number of things that were discussed in closed session, violating our board policy, and I believe violating the Code of Virginia with regard to FOIA. The allegations that have been made by Hayden Fisher, Starlet Stevens, Ames Russell, I think that I addressed those one by one and debunked them and basically outlined exactly what happened. All of the accusers have absolutely no firsthand knowledge or observation of anything that happened. It's all of their allegations are based on double and triple hearsay. And the letter from 7 registrars backs up our story, which is the truth. So I don't really see any need to refer this to the Commonwealth's attorney. This is just an unfounded accusation, which was done in retaliation for us removing Kirk Showalter as registrar. The timing of it is suspect. If they had these allegations, why didn't they bring them? Why didn't they wait until February to bring up these allegations? Why didn't they bring them up in November?
Excuse me, Chairman Brink.
Only after we removed Kirk Showalter did they bring
Chairman
any of
Brink?
this up. Retaliation.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Nachman. You can provide an additional statement for the record if you wish.
I will stand on my submission and the submission that was made by the registrars who actually observed everything firsthand, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Nachman.
Thank you.
Are there any additional speakers on this item?
I have no more names on my list. Chairman Brink.
All right, in that event, it's been moved and seconded that we proceed with a request to the Commonwealth Attorney of the City of Richmond for an investigation of certain matters. Will the secretary call the roll?
Chairman Brink.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon.
Aye.
Secretary Cruz, aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Before we go into public comment, I'd just like to say a couple of things. Over the past few weeks, we've received voluminous material regarding alleged irregularities in the operations of these 2 electoral boards. The members of the state board, all 3 of us, have reviewed the material. We consulted with counsel to determine our oversight authority and the appropriate course of action. In the case of Nottaway County, it is abundantly clear that the electoral board needs additional training in the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act. The department will assist in any way it can in helping to provide this training. And there also have been allegations of improper political activity on the part of electoral board members. The situation with the Richmond City Electoral Board involves allegations of irregularities, not only in discharging its responsibilities under FOIA, but also in carrying out the procedural requirements of Title 24.2 of the Code. Neither the board nor the department have the investigative tools or authority to definitively determine the facts in this matter. And for that reason, the board, by the motion that we just passed, has referred this matter to the Commonwealth Attorney for the City of Richmond for its review. I think it's very important that we identify the source of the dysfunction in these two boards. That stands in stark contrast to the overwhelming majority of electoral boards across the Commonwealth, which discharge their duties in a collegial, respectful, and nonpartisan manner. The core purpose of local electoral boards as one component of their locality's election operation is to serve the citizens through an efficient and transparent electoral process. The personality disputes that we've seen displayed in these two jurisdictions run exactly counter to that mission. I hope that by the action that we're taking today, we can correct this situation. Do any members have any additional comments?
I've known you a long time. I never knew that you were eloquent, but I have to say that I agree very much with the thoughts you've just articulated. I went back and looked at 24.2106, and I would encourage every electoral board member to go back and read that, because there are very specific prohibitions about getting this process of running elections too overtly political. And I hopefully what you did last time with the late filers was a good message, and I hope this is a healthy message as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. O'Bannon. Any additional comments? If not, can staff tell us if there are any members of the public who wish to be heard on an item not on our agenda?
Yes, Chairman Brink, I have Ms. Ebony Lofton.
Ms. Lofgren?
Hello, my name is Ebony Lofton. I appreciate the time to speak. I simply just wanted to touch on a matter recently. I'm not sure of the time frame, but my sincere disappointment with the Board of Elections' refusal to extend, to grant extensions for candidates that could have potentially been on the ballot this June. Even as recent as January, an extension was offered to a candidate who, in her response or in her request, indicated that the lines were long at the post office. It is my understanding that this is a common practice of the Board of Elections, and it's awfully convenient that this particular time these extensions weren't granted. So I'm pledging and asking for the consideration of the people. Chairman Brink, even you are quoted to have mentioned that the election should be in the hand of the people, and this would create that opportunity. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Lofton. Are there any additional speakers?
Chairman Brink, I have no other speakers.
All right. In that event, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. Will the secretary call the roll, please?
Chairman Brink.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Dr. O'Bannon.
Aye.
Secretary Cruz. Aye.
The motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much for your participation.